Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to an episode of my F1 22 My Team Career Mode. This is episode number 52 today for the Mexican Grand Prix in Season 3. If you guys did miss the previous one at the Singapore GP, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one. But quite amazingly, we have arrived at the Mexican Grand Prix on the day of the IRL Mexican Grand Prix in 2022. Didn't plan that at all, but it's just a happy accident, and this is crunch time in this season. We have got 3 rounds to go, including this one, and it couldn't be any closer. There are 10 points separating the top 5 drivers here in the Drivers' Championship. Sebastian Vettel somehow still leads the way by 1 measly point to Pierre Gasly in second place. Albon, after a difficult race for him and Red Bull as a whole, with a double DNF at Singapore, in 3rd place. Leclerc in 4th, and myself in 5th place after recovering some points on our rivals there. And this is probably the closest we've been to the top fight, I think, for a while, really. And it comes at a very interesting time in this season where, into this episode, we're going to have 2 ultimate upgrades on the engine side of things, which is quite a big deal because we've been slacking on the engine side for a while now. An ultimate engine power upgrade and an ERS as well. At a track like Mexico, long main straight with DRS being so powerful, you need straight line speed, so that's going to come in clutch, I'm hoping. And then also even the other races, you know, Brazil and Abu Dhabi, having that extra power is going to be massive, and clearly it's been a hindrance to our car, along with also just the characteristics in the middle of the corners as well. But clearly on the straights there have been major times where we've been lacking in that department. Also just pure acceleration out of corners as well with the power delivery. But although this may be coming at the right time and seemingly everything's clicking together, we're as close as we ever have been to first place in the championship, these extra upgrades coming at the right time. But unfortunately, we've also got a regulation change, which means you can see all these icons in orange have to be adapted for next season. So it means, technically, if we want to make sure we don't absolutely nuke our chances in Season 4, we are forced to kind of basically stop any further upgrades coming this season, because we need to desperately try and save as many R&D points, because the aero and the engine side is being reset. And the aero, I've got like 21 upgrades to try and adapt, so the upgrading is going to stop there. So where the car is now is where we're going to pretty much end. So we won't get this car higher, technically, than 6th place on the grid in terms of the pecking order. But you can see it's so close now. Ourselves and Ferrari both bring some decent upgrades into Mexico. So for myself and Leclerc, P4 and 5 in the championship, could it be the correct time for both of us, for both our teams, to bring these upgrades to get us up towards those top 3 spots of Vettel, Albon and Pierre Gasly as the rest of them plateau? Apart from Alpine, bit of a dark horse and spanner in the works there with Sergio Perez and Esteban Ocon. I reckon they'll just be going for the maximum positions, and they could affect the championship. Even though they're not in the fight, Alpine, both of the drivers, could affect this title fight in the remaining 3 races. And I mentioned not bringing more upgrades for this season. To be honest, to be fair, the AI teams around us, they'll also want to be saving R&D, so potentially that could have been the last round of big upgrades for at least some of the top guys here, as we all look to focus on next season as well. You know, have one eye on that as we go into them this year. But we start Q1 then with a bit of a dicey move into turn 1, because Piastri, I think he'd already set his lap time, so he's on an in-lap and just didn't bother getting out of the way, so he loses a lot of time in that first sector. Then just complete wash of understeer in the stadium section as the home favourite Sergio Perez goes quickest of all. I mean, Alpine brought upgrades at the right time. Can you imagine Sergio Perez and the Alpine going on to do very well in this race? It'll be quite something at the checkered flag, but we have to go again for a second flyer. I used the same set of soft tyres though, so we didn't waste a set that I could use in Q2 and Q3, but we had to go again because you're about to see on the top right, I lost like a good 3-4 tenths, 5 tenths even in that first sequence of corners just because of Piastri blocking me. But as we come through the final bend, also a little bit less understeer in the stadium section, getting the car pointed to where I want, 8/10 gained, and that will get us through into Q2. But Sebastian Vettel, the championship leader, laying down a marker with these new upgrades, fastest of all, ahead of Verstappen, Leclerc, Ocon. The McLarens down the order. I don't know if that's just, them getting used to the circuit. Maybe they'll speed up in Q2, we'll see. But that would be a concern if Gasly was down there in legitimate pace. But we're going to have to see about that as we enter that second part of qualifying. No traffic this time to report in terms of the first sequence of corners, and just trying to keep it as clean as we can and tight to these apexes as possible, because it's so easy to run wide in Sector 2, and if you run wide at one corner, that's it. Your whole momentum is blown through the entire sector, so you have to really try and kind of rein in how quick you want to enter these corners to make sure you keep it tidy as ever as we now get through the final bend across the line, 1.5 tenths behind Vettel. I think we'll go again just to make sure we're going to be safe, and if that was a good decision because things changed rapidly. Insane track evolution. I was down to P15 this is, as we're about to now finish our second fly. I mean, you can see the track evolution very clearly on the top right, because we're going to gain a further 8/10 in this second part of qualifying on the second lap to go P2 then. Much better from us. And in the end of it, actually, Vettel was the one who risked it, and he only just made it through in P10 there by the skin of his teeth. But Vettel, Gasly are through, as well as Leclerc, Albon, and myself. You know, in these last 3 rounds, it is going to be all down to, yes, getting the result, but being consistent over the 3 rounds. And so it's crucial for all 5 of us to be in the top 10 shootout in every qualifying. So we've done it here in Mexico. Obviously, Brazil will have the sprint round, so that'll be quite interesting, actually, how that sprint race goes into the final, into that Sunday Grand Prix. And then Abu Dhabi as well. It's all about consistency, because you cannot afford to drop points. But the first run in Q3 wasn't insane for either me or Vettel. It seems like the teams around us finding a bit more pace around here compared to us, or maybe just we're losing some time in Sector 3 as the sun goes down. I don't know. Maybe some track evolution going the way of other teams rather than us. But now in the second flyer, finding some good amount of time. Purple second sector, although only about 4/10 up. I don't know how close things are at the sharp end. But myself and Vettel P5 and 7 as the checkered flag falls. It's a bit of time loss in the stadium section. Gain it back, then lose a bit through the final bend, then gain some on the exit again as we yo-yo about 4.6 tenths gained. And where is that going to get us? P4 on the grid, this second row. But it's the home favourite, Sergio Perez, gets pole position in his home race at the Mexican Grand Prix. But it's a bit of a shock Q3 there, with Vettel struggling for once to extract the lap time out of this car. I don't know whether he got traffic or whatever, because clearly he had way more pace in Q1, so I don't know what happened from then to now. But P9 there, that's going to be a little bit unfortunate for him with, his rivals, his closest rival, Pierre Gasly, just behind me in P5, and Leclerc up there in P2. Albon lost a bit of pace there with Red Bull down in P7 in the last part of qualifying. But the race tomorrow should be an interesting one. It's always very, very good around here in Mexico on the game, because like, Monza, like Belgium, because you've got those long straights on the game, this slipstream is just unbelievable. So I'm sure we're going to have plenty of action. But wow, the home crowd are going to be loving it. Perez on pole for tomorrow.
Welcome to Mexico City, the most popular city in North America, and home, of course, to the Mexico City Grand Prix. It's a sellout crowd as usual here at one of the shortest circuits on the Formula One calendar. And who, I wonder, will they be cheering on the top step of today's podium? The Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, 2.6 miles of track that allows drivers to take full advantage of their cars, reaching speeds in excess of 220 miles per hour, and providing lots of opportunities for overtaking. The circuit features 17 corners, 10 to the right, and the remaining 7 going to the left. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. It's Sergio Perez on pole today, with Charles Leclerc alongside. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Norris, the owner driver, Pierre Gasly and Russell, Albon, Ocon, Vettel and Lewis Hamilton, Oscar Piastri, Verstappen, Carlos Sainz and Mick Schumacher, Bottas, Drugovich, Kevin Magnussen and Yuki Tsunoda, Schwartzman, Stroll, Liam Lawson and Théo Pourchaire. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head down trackside for today's race. Anthony Davidson is alongside me as usual for today's race. We have a really close scrap at the top of the championship at the moment, and they're right in the thick of it. But any mistake now could be disastrous.
True enough, but that pressure goes both ways. A failure or a mistake at this point could spell the end of their championship hopes, but they know their rivals are in exactly the same situation. Let's just hope the title is decided in the purest of ways.
This could end up being a very crucial race for the championship. Yep, sure, there's plenty of points up for grabs at Brazil and Abu Dhabi, but this race, it feels like we've got a real good chance. On the second row, with two ultimate engine upgrades in the pure power department and ERS department, where we've been slacking a little bit sometimes in the middle of these races, this could be the thing that clicks into place for us to maybe go for that second elusive win this season, or just a solid podium to outscore our rivals and get us firmly into this championship fight for those last two rounds. Going to be an interesting one with the tyre upgrades. It's now a one-stop around here in Mexico, from the mediums to hards. A couple of people on softs, but most of us on the mediums going for that one stop. But either way, I'm sure it's going to be a slipstream fest down this main straight and to turn one here on lap one as we go to 5 red lights to the Mexican Grand Prix, and we are underway. It's a bit of a slow start for the pole man. The home favourite Leclerc gets a good getaway. We have a mediocre start, but now with a long run down to turn one, there's the slipstream pulling in the McLaren, gaining on the Ferrari. Where are we going to go? First place man Sergio Perez locks up and goes completely off circuit. He goes completely wide. Leclerc up into first place. We managed to stay ahead of Lando Norris up into second place this is now. So all of a sudden, what an electric start for us, and two of the soft tyre runners behind us of Lando and Alexander Albon in the Red Bull. But what a shame for Perez. Did so well to get pole in front of his home crowd, and now he's down to P7, even behind his own teammate of Ocon. The pressure got to him at turn one. Big lock up. He's lucky to still be as high as he is right now, because I thought he was going straight on and across, as we've seen sometimes in real life. But it means we're elevated up into P2 now all of a sudden. And you'll remember to that R&D chart, first and second place here at the moment are the two cars that brought the biggest upgrades for this weekend. So yeah, it looks like they've worked, but let's look at a replay and actually watch what went on. So first of all, the McLaren actually gained quite a lot on the Ferrari. Perez trying to suss out where to defend, and then here you're going to see just a major lock-up on that front right tyre. And like I said, he's lucky that he came back so well. He was 3 abreast with his teammate, and I think that's the other McLaren of Gasly in the mixer, as Vettel has to jockey for positions in the thick of it and stay ahead of Verstappen, but he'll be wanting to get a move on here. But Perez actually tried to be fair to him, made a really good overtake, tried to make a double overtake work. He did get the McLaren, but he actually couldn't, he wasn't able to get Ocon, so he actually did well to recover there, to be fair to him, to re-overtake the McLaren he lost the position to. But still, from pole to P7, obviously not the ideal. But now we move on to lap 3. Albon sizing up a move on Lando Norris. No DRS here, just pure slipstream. The Red Bull trying to get down the inside. Lando tried to give him the squeeze, but Albon kept his foot in down the inside. Late lunge. Both of them on the soft compound, though. So in reality, they should be not fighting each other and kind of helping each other slipstream each other to catch up to myself and Leclerc, because they're going to have to pit earlier. So they need to use these softs to good effect. I don't know whether they're doing a one-stop as well, and they feel like their tyre wear levels are so good that they can do a one-stop from soft to hards, or they're going for a very aggressive two-stop. If it is a two-stop, they need to hope of catching myself and Leclerc and then bridging a gap basically for a pit stop. But meanwhile, speaking of myself and Leclerc, we've set the fast lap of the Grand Prix now, getting in the groove, looking to make a move for the race lead here as we nearly bang tyres into turn 1. We got a bit too deep though into turn 2, tight on the apex. Leclerc's got his nose in, but we just get to the next apex, drifting through pretty much and having to go opposite lock DRS available to us, and we look behind, and Leclerc has been booked into P2. We're up into P1, but it's not over there. The AI are very strong in Sector 3, and despite the 2 engine upgrades, the DRS is just so powerful here in Mexico that Leclerc powers past despite us deploying ERS everywhere. We are going to try and give him a bit of fight there, send him a bit tight on the line to defend the inside line, allows us to swoop in round the outside to the inside for turn 3 and jockey for position. And we're actually back ahead, but then he gets the exit. I think he's got the second bite of DRS. Yes, he does, to pull ahead. So even that short straight, that DRS is so effective to get you ahead. So alas, we have to settle down for P2. But I kind of guess we're going to be in a bit of a yo-yo position where we're going back and forth, back and forth. But the problem is now that Albon, Norris, and even all the other cars behind, look at the minimap, they've all arrived on the scene. We have now got a massive 10-car train basically forming. Such is the slower pace we're going at by fighting so much in the first few corners. But we get a great exit off that second sector S section, and we send it round the outside. Just about managed to slow down the car on the left-hander into the stadium section, up into P1 then. But that probably was a mistake. I actually maybe should have just been patient and stuck behind, because you're going to guess it, Leclerc's going to have a very good chance to re-overtake us. We're deploying ERS once again all the way down this straight, but there it is. As soon as he gets in the tow, the DRS just works a treat. Yellow flags, not for anyone around us, but Leclerc on the inside. We're going to give him the squeeze this time. He hops the curb. Albon nearly tries to overtake us on the outside there. We just about managed to somehow end up in P1 still. Leclerc P2. Albon couldn't make anything of it. He made a bit of an error going so deep into the corner, but Leclerc comes back at us. He's side by side again. We give him a bit of a squeeze, bit of contact made. Ocon is out of this Grand Prix, so one less Alpine to worry about, but we're still at it with Leclerc. Again, we give him a squeeze to the inside. Again, that Ferrari seems to ride the curbs pretty damn awesomely, because Leclerc is still there. We squeeze him to the outside, but he's still got his foot in. I cannot get this guy out of my face, basically. Leclerc remains in P1 then. Some stern defense. And you can tell that both myself and Leclerc, the ones who have got the most to gain from being in first place and second, really just, ahead of everyone, we've got the most to gain. So me and Leclerc are fighting so hard for that P1, because for both of us, it would mean so much for the championship. It would blow it wide open for us. We're watching a replay here now. You just saw where Ocon pulled up as he retired out the Grand Prix, but we're also staying on board with Verstappen to watch this absolutely insane kamikaze dive. He's already made 2 overtakes. He's going for the 3rd, but did you see how far back he came from? That was insane. That is why we stuck on with that replay. He actually got the 2 moves, to be fair, on Vettel and Gasly. Couldn't quite get Ocon, and you can see up the road myself and Leclerc fighting side by side in that section where we left it off, basically. But we're going to cut back now to the live action, and Sergio Perez, the only Alpine left in this race, looking to make a cheeky little dive on the inside of Russell into the stadium. Verstappen may sense some blood there, the Alpine going slow. And then look behind, you've got Piastri having a go at Gasly. So the 2, first in place in the championship, they're struggling for pace this episode. Gasly P9, Vettel P10. We haven't really seen them make much progress, and that's why a first or even second place for myself and Leclerc, and Albon in 3rd as well for all 3 of us. This could be a crucial set of results here, as we're still trying to do better though than second place. I want that second win of the season. We can sniff it. We've got it in our hands here with the way the race has been set up. We've got the pace for it, and we make this switchback move from left to right, get the exit. I actually forget to activate DRS because I was so focused on Leclerc, defend the inside, but then it ends up being 3 wide. Where has Albon come from? Where has Albon actually come from in that move? So all of a sudden, I've gone from being in first place to watching first and second battle with myself in 3rd. Albon now on the outside, the Red Bull going for the lead. Leclerc takes him wide in the same way I try to take him wide, but he actually slows himself up and actually shoots himself in the foot, because Albon's up into first place. We're back up into second, but we're going to look to change this as Albon is a bit slow off that corner. We go for the dive on the outside with our old teammate from last season. It's not going to be side-by-side at the hairpin, though, because I could just tell we were going to get pinched in to no end by Albon. It's happened before this season with him, so I thought better of it and instead played the patient game, but I lost a bit too much time in the stadium section there because Albon's already broken DRS then, and Leclerc has DRS on me, so that was a bit unfortunate. Maybe it would have been worthwhile keeping my nose in and making a bit of contact with Albon to just keep him at bay, because with those soft tyres, he's run away already. It's Lando Norris has crashed into the back of us. He's got no front wing. What on earth was the McLaren doing there? We've now got bargeboard damage from the McLaren. No fault of our own, I feel, because we were just taking to the racing line. And I wasn't even braking too early, to be honest. I was trying to brake as late as I could to try and have a go at Leclerc. So the McLaren now has no front wing, and that is going to be his race down the bin. But for me, with bargeboard damage, that's not going to help me out in the corners. And you can see there, with the flick of oversteer, big tank slapper, and Leclerc re-overtakes us, but he's so wide into that corner. We have a little look down the inside. It's honestly, me and Leclerc now, we're just joined to the hip in this race, it would seem, because every time one of us makes a move, we then make a mistake and let the other one through. It's unbelievable. So Albon, in one lap, is now 4.3 ahead of everyone on the soft tyres. So if he is doing a two-stop, he's doing very well to make that two-stop work this afternoon, because that's the kind of time gap he needs to be gaining every lap. Meanwhile, it's all kicking off behind us. There's a scrap for P9 and 10 between Piastri and Hamilton. This is a replay of 2 laps ago of actually how that top 10 got so damn close and the fighting going on. Gasly being attacked by Piastri down the inside, and this is actually going to set up where Vettel is going to get right up the chuff of Gasly. Of course, remember, Vettel 1 point ahead of Gasly going into this race. It's a very fine margin, so Vettel will want to try and make a move if he can, and now he's got Gasly right ahead of him, and into the last sector, he makes a worldly dive bomb down the inside of both of them. Gets Gasly, because Gasly just had a horrendous lock-up, didn't quite get Piastri, but that could be a very important overtake for Vettel in this championship. And this is then the onboard from Lando Norris, and it's just a very silly, clumsy move there. He just went too hot into that. You know, he saw where my car was, where Leclerc's car was, and just kind of misjudged it. But Vettel, well, it was Verstappen earlier. Now it's Vettel's turn to try and make a triple overtake. He makes the double overtake work. Again, like Verstappen, can't get the Alpine. Very strangely and ironic, the same sort of similar thing. They can't get the Alpine, the third car, but they do get the 2 cars. So Vettel up into P6. So that is very Sebastian Vettel from this season. How many times in this season 3 have we seen him make these crazy moves? And he's been such an overtaking machine this season to climb up positions where he needs to get those consistent points, and it's paying off again as he's up into P6 here. Russell trying to pressurize Leclerc, because after all that fighting, I don't know if Leclerc got damage off his contact with Albon, but Leclerc was just so slow then that I've gapped him despite having bargeboard damage. I'm 2.6 seconds ahead of him. I'm not gaining out on Albon because he's on softs and I've got damage, so the gap's still 4.5, but Leclerc, I definitely think he got damage off that contact with Albon, because he just, for whatever reason, slowed down and was basically, as you can see here, holding up and backing Russell into Perez, crucially into Vettel, and also Gasly even maybe further behind. So those two could gain positions from people being backed up into them via the Ferrari, as now we see some of the guys coming in from the soft compounder tyre. So Vettel up into P5, Russell still trying to have a look at Leclerc with DRS, but he looks a little tiny bit down the inside, but just doesn't go for it. But soon enough, Vettel will be right on the back of Russell, so Vettel could get as high as P3 then on the road. Of course, we still need to see where the likes of Perez filter out with that early pit stop from the soft tyres, and where this man will come out. Will he be doing a 2-stop? Will it be a 1-stop? I don't know, but I'm trying my best to stick with him. We've actually started to gain a bit of time on him. 3.2, now 2.1 the gap is, because his soft tyres are going off. So is this the point where Albon's maybe gone too far on these tyres and we start to gain and come back into the frame for the race win? Because it looked like he was going to dominate this one, but we're gaining. But now, oh my god, the worst thing that could possibly happen in these last 3 rounds has happened. We've got an engine failure. Our engine is up in smokes. It's our first engine failure of the entire season. And that's it. We're out. We're out of the Mexican Grand Prix. And that might just be the nail in the coffin for our entire championship fight. This whole season, we've not really been in the title fight. Vettel's been up there, but for the first time into this episode, we were 10 points back with 3 races to go, and now the F1 gods have dealt us the heaviest of blows, a DNF in one of the most crucial races.
So, another fantastic victory for Red Bull today. Tell me, Ant, how did they manage to achieve this win?
Well, this was won through an abundance of speed and skillful overtakes. Inside, outside, cutting underneath, we saw it all today. And it's really nice to see a Grand Prix won in that manner. A race to satisfy the purists today, I think.
The drivers are en route to the podium as we speak. What a fantastic win for the Red Bull team. They performed exceptionally today, keeping us firmly on the edge of our seats throughout the entirety of the race. Congratulations to everybody at the team.
Albon went on to win the race. Of course, you'll know if you DNF, you can't watch the rest of the race. The race gets simulated, so we don't know what went on, but somehow Perez got a second place there. Oh, he was also one of those guys on the soft tyre strategy, as well as Verstappen, so looks like starting on softs was the way to go, because Verstappen gets him to third, so it's a very strong race for Red Bull to answer back for that double DNF they had at the Singapore Grand Prix. And let's take a look then at the final result. Vettel did manage to secure P4 there, just ahead of Pierre Gasly, so those two ended up pretty damn close. So Vettel only gained 2 points on Gasly in the standings, that means, and Vettel did very well to limit the damage from Albon's win there for P4. Leclerc down to P6 with whatever damage I reckon he got off that collision with Albon, but for us, 0 points. It means we go into the final 2 races. I am a whopping 29 points off the championship leader, and it's Albon. Albon leads by 7, so even Vettel has some work to do in these last 2 rounds to get back into it. Gasly as well. Myself and Leclerc, you could say both of us are the outside chances, mathematically still in it, but we are going to need to work our socks off. I'm going to have to win the sprint race, the Brazil race, and then try and go for the Abu Dhabi one. I don't know what the permutations are. It depends on where everyone else finishes, of course, as well. But I'm going to basically need to be driving at the maximum level in the last 2 races to have any chance of getting into this title fight and getting that elusive Drivers' World Championship that we've still not won on this game 3 seasons in, and things like this don't help. I can't believe it. I thought things were going our way. Vettel and Gasly down the order, Leclerc down the order. We were going to chase after Albon there, and as soon as we started to close up on him, engine failure. I can't believe it. For the second time on this game, we've had an engine failure at Mexico. Remember, it happened before in Mexico when we were about to go on for, I think, one of our first podiums or another podium, and we had a DNF there. So there's something in the water in Mexico, and I just don't gel with it. Maybe, I enjoy driving it so much, but maybe it's our bogey circuit in that regard in my team career mode. So, guys, let me know what you make of this episode. I'm sure there'll be some very shocking reactions to it. If you have enjoyed it, though, hit the like button. Let me know, do you reckon I have any chance of getting back into this with the sprint race and the full Brazilian Grand Prix in Abu Dhabi, or is it all over for me and we have to focus on helping Vettel secure his 5th World Championship? Let me know. If you're new around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.